So I've been in marketing for about 15 years, and a couple of years ago started my own consultancy as a fractional CMO. So now I work as a fractional, so part-time chief marketing officer for a handful of brands in the direct-to-consumer space.
Amazing. And you're working with someone pretty notable right now.
I am, yes, one of my clients right now is Jenna Kutcher.
What I love about this story is just like it's really about believing in yourself so much with such conviction that you can actually go out there and ask the people who you love and admire if you can work with them.
Yeah. I think you were one of the first people I told. So it's funny because I was definitely intimidated reaching out to her. She's a marketing expert, and so she wouldn't probably traditionally fit the mold of someone who you think might need a CMO, but I had followed her for quite some time and I saw a big shift in her business, and I saw a window of opportunity where I felt like, okay, she's shifting into this new space, and I know that she wants to like pull back from her business a little bit and have some more time with her kids, and I just think there might be some opportunity to work together. So I actually sent her a message on LinkedIn, just a really simple email saying basically that, and it actually took a little while to hear back from her because she just never really is on LinkedIn, and then she messaged me back, and within like a couple of days from that first message from her, she was texting me, and then I remember she called me one time. I was like pacing around in my backyard waiting for her to call. I'm like, oh my God, Jenna Kutcher's phone number is like coming up on my texts right now. And then I answered the phone, and we actually had just this really like casual conversation while I walked around in bare feet on my grass in the backyard, and just told her how I work with clients and what I saw, outside looking in with her business, and just where I felt like I could support. And it just flowed so naturally. She was like, let's do this. Like, when do we start? How do we do this? So it was honestly like probably one of my easier sales calls that I've ever had. So it was pretty funny.
Well, it's almost like the timing was great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she knew she needed it,
Yeah.
and then you showed up. There's also too something about you energetically fitting within her organization. So when you met other people on her team, were you surprised at all about the people that were working with her?
Yes and no. Like, she's a very positive and magnetic person, so I did expect her team to be great, but I was surprised just at like how great they were. Like, her team is just like full of top quality people. Like, not only is every single person on her team incredible at what they do and like very specialized in what they do, but they're also just like incredible humans. Like, I've been working with Jenna for 9 months, and everyone on her team would like bend over backwards, and there's so much support for one another, like both with work and outside of work, and there's just like this level of care and respect that you don't see very often, especially, like, I hate to say this, but like especially in a group of women. Like, it can sometimes not be that way. So I joined, and they were right in the middle of a really busy launch, and because of the previous year had been really focused on Jenna's book, they hadn't done any live launches in a long time. So they were in this like really, really busy space, and they hadn't done it in a while. And I was just blown away at like how calm everything was amid the like busyness and the really wild deadlines and all of the work that was happening. Just like the level of like support and calm and respect and just like graciousness that existed on her team at that point. Like, that was just super cool to see. So at a really high level, I create marketing strategy for companies, and I support them in the execution of the strategy. So I don't actually execute, but I either work with their existing teams, or I help them get the right people in place to actually execute. So I work with a variety of different companies, like everything from a startup who hasn't even launched yet, all the way through to a company like Jenna's, or another established brand that's been around for a long time. The difference would be, with a startup, I might be coming in and creating their entire brand and marketing strategy, and so helping them ideate on like, who is the brand, who's our target market, what's our, competitive differentiators, and then how are we actually going to go to market? Like, what channels are we going to be on? What are, like, tactically, what does that look like on a weekly and daily basis? And then with brands that are a little bit more established, like Jenna, for example, obviously we weren't starting from scratch, and she's got a lot of offerings, and she's been doing what she's been doing for a really long time. So for her, it was more about coming in and looking for opportunities to optimize or better improve things. So like one of the big projects we started right away was getting some analytics and tracking in place, because she's incredibly successful and her business does very well, but they didn't have any tracking. So there was no visibility into like what's actually driving these results, for clients to understand, like if they're doing a launch for something and they're firing on like Facebook and Instagram and paid ads and podcast and like all of these different channels, for them to understand what's driving results is actually so helpful, because then when they go to do it again, they can do more of what worked and either like fix the places that are not working or just completely remove them off their plate. And then it decreases the work that they actually have to do. So, just getting visibility into like what is and isn't working. That's a great question. I've been doing marketing for a while, for almost 15 years. And prior to doing this, I worked in the corporate world doing marketing. So I worked for companies, I worked for a couple of agencies as well. And I always really loved marketing strategy. My roles eventually, as I got on in my career, turned into usually like leading marketing and creating strategy. But there always was usually like some element of me executing too, or managing teams that were executing. And so I started to think, like, after I had my daughters, like they're 4 and they're 2. Something just kind of shifted in me. Like I love what I do for work, but I didn't want to be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 anymore. Like I just knew my life didn't work that way, and I needed more flexibility, and I wanted to have the freedom to create what my days would look like and be able to like be with my family when I wanted and then work when I wanted to, and also do the work that I wanted to do. Like if I was going to be away from my kids, I wanted it to be doing things that like lit me up and that I loved. So I started to just do some research and figure out like what might this look like. I stumbled across the term fractional CMO and started to like learn everything I could about it. And then I talked to other fractional CMOs, and it was kind of honestly like a light bulb moment where it was like, this is exactly it. Like I've always loved strategy. And the execution, I think I was getting to a point in my career where it just wasn't really lighting me up anymore. And the thing is with marketing is, especially like social media and digital channels, they change so quickly. And if you're not like sleeping and breathing that channel and really keeping up with what's going on, you're not always doing the best job. So I went from like, creating strategy to like trying to execute on stuff, but feeling like, okay, I don't know this. And why wouldn't I bring in this social media expert who like does this every day? I'll create the strategy, they will do the doing, and then we're almost this like team of superhumans, because rather than it all being kind of watered down, it's like I'm bringing in everyone who's like completely experts in their lane. I think there's a few different factors. So I have different packages. Every fractional CMO works differently, but I have different packages that sort of suit different levels, all the way from like the startup phase all the way through to companies who are mid-size, like 3 to sort of 10 million is my sweet spot in terms of revenue. But I think if you're more in the startup phase, I think it's beneficial to have a fractional CMO to help you with an initial marketing strategy, and then help you figure out, like, with your limited resources, time, team, money, where should you be focusing your efforts in terms of like marketing channels, what things matter, what things can you leave and do later, where can you kind of like do something quick and maybe come back to it. Like I see a lot of startups, for example, spend 10 grand on branding. Like that doesn't make sense as a startup. Mm-hmm. So I can come in and kind of help them figure out like, what's the now plan, and then where are we going to, and how do you ensure that the marketing that you're doing is actually like moving the right needles forward? Because it's easy to be focusing on like, oh, our social media channels are growing, or we've got engagement over here, but like really, what are the metrics that you should be caring about at that point in time of your business? And then for a company who's, more established, I think a fractional CMO is a great fit for a few different types of clients. So with Jenna in particular, like she's obviously a marketing expert. So I wasn't coming in that instance and telling her things she didn't know. It was more about like freeing up her time. She was the only one doing marketing strategy up until that point in her business, and she has a team, but strategy was all on her. So me coming in and supporting with strategy allowed some of that strategy work to be off of her plate, so she could sort of step back and be the visionary of her brand, and also really like step away from her business a little bit and not have to spend so much time in it. And then for clients who are like, they don't know marketing, but they do have a business. I work with clients who are just really looking to grow or take their company to that next level, and they just don't know. They're doing stuff and things are kind of working, but they don't really know what's working. They don't know what's not working, and they don't really know how to get from like where they are to where they want to be. It varies. I would say on average, it's like 6 months to a year. But there's clients where I just do like one-off engagements around strategy. And then there's clients that I've been working with a lot longer as well.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I need this right now. As when you said the metrics thing, I'm like, oh, wait, I just started having a lot of my contractors. So like a video guy, come in, and now he has to report bi-weekly metrics to me, because he's like, it's going to take 2 or 3 months for us to really understand how things are working on YouTube and YouTube Shorts and TikTok. And I'm like, at this point now, we're going into month 4, and I'm like, hey, what are the numbers? Is this actually driving people to my site to convert to a customer? Yeah. And really, it's like, if it's not working in the next month, we either need to re-strategize, or we're just canning this channel altogether. And you have to be okay with the giving up. And totally. Like, yes, we put a lot of time and effort into making these channels work, like YouTube and Shorts and TikTok. But if you're just not seeing the results, sometimes it's like, what's not working, or are we just wasting our time and money here?
Yeah. And I love that you actually bring that up, because I think that's, there's kind of a big misconception around marketing. Like sometimes when I talk to people, I think they think that marketing is just going to be this like sort of answer to everything. Like, okay, you turn on marketing and suddenly the sales will flood in. But in actuality, what it is like a science experiment. So you have this, educated guess or this hypothesis based on, for me, I'm basing it on years of experience and similar clients and similar industries I've worked in. And you have this hypothesis of what's going to move the needle and what they need to be doing, but you don't know till you get in there and you do it. And I think the part that works about strategy is when you're looking at the right metrics and you're making decisions based on the data. So to your point, going out and trying these channels, trying your video strategy, let's just say worst case scenario that doesn't work for you. It's not a loss. Like you still went out there and you tried it, and it's just one thing that is like in the no pile now. And then you can start looking at your data in the other areas that are working and like dial that up, or say, okay, well over here we're having success with this. What if we replicated that here? What would that look like? Yeah, that is actually like a really good question. So it's easier than you would think. Generally, I think I connect like pretty well with people. So I have a pretty comprehensive discovery process, and depending on the package I'm working with clients sort of dictates like how much I'm involved with their team and how much I'm leading. But if I am like in a position where I'm fully in and integrated with their team, I spend some time getting to know the whole team and chatting with them about like, who are they? What's their role? What do they love about what they're doing? What do they not like? Do they have any creative ideas for marketing? Do they have any goals? Is there anything like developmentally within marketing or their career that they're interested in? And then how can I help them? How can I support them in achieving their goals? Because as much as it's my job as a CMO to drive results for the business, the leadership component and management component and sort of mentorship component is a really big part of it as well. I have one client right now actually where I'm actually only doing marketing mentorship for their VP of marketing, because they have strategy like semi-covered and we always talk about it, but what she really wanted and what they wanted for her was some leadership that they weren't able to give her on a full-time basis. And she has, these desires to grow in her career and grow as a leader and grow as a strategist and a manager, and this allows her to do that in kind of an unconventional way. I think really high level, the benefit is that you're getting someone who's highly experienced in marketing, and you're getting a really well thought out strategy that's done very well, but you're not having to make a full-time hire. So there's a lot of companies who don't need a CMO. They don't need somebody at this top level in marketing on a full-time basis. And you and I both know what it's like making full-time hires and having staff and just like what goes along with that. So when you're working with someone on a contract or, a retainer, and I make it really easy to quit me. It's like a 30-day, 30-day notice policy. When you're working with a fractional CMO, it's generally pretty easy to like part ways at any given time, which just makes it, it just makes it a lot easier. I see a lot of, I'd say the biggest is like often people will have one person doing everything. Like they'll hire one person and that person's like kind of doing strategy, and they're sort of posting on social, and they're doing website stuff, and they're doing everything. They're almost sort of a marketing coordinator, a marketing manager role. And what I find doesn't work with that is usually that person has like one or two areas of expertise, but a lot of the other things they're doing, they just don't know what they don't know. So they're not really doing the best job they could across all of their platforms, which at the end of the day, it just means there's money left on the table for this client. So usually what I like to recommend is bringing in people on an as needed basis or on a contractor basis to do like exactly where their expertise sits. So if you need someone to do social, we'll figure out, is that, 5 hours a week? Is it, what exactly do you need, as opposed to trying to like make one person just like fit into all of these areas. Yeah, I look at the whole team, or sometimes they don't have a team, but they're like, what do I need? Like, what do we do? How do I take this off my plate? Because I'm doing everything. I help them figure out like, what and who do we need? And based on your size and your revenue, like I have some clients who are like, just starting out in pre-revenue, or they're very like small revenue. So I help them figure out like, at your size, what do you actually need right now? Like, does it make sense to hire this person at this salary, or do we go small? Do we invest over here a little bit and we have this person a little bit? I just help them sort of right size the strategy and right size the team. Yeah. And often like they don't actually know what's working and what's not from a marketing standpoint. They might know sort of like 10,000 foot view of their business, what is and isn't working, but they don't really understand what's driving with marketing. A lot of my clients are like, we have no idea. Like I have some clients that have had businesses for a while. They're kind of in a bit of a growth phase, and they want to get to that next level, but they don't know how, because they're seeing success, but they don't really know. Is it email? Is it Instagram? What is it? And so, me coming in and being able to help them figure out what actually is driving results, and then what do they actually need to do to get from where they are to where they want to be. We map out those plans when it comes to like both marketing strategy and then team. Yeah, it depends on the package that I am on with a client, but definitely like at the kind of highest level, I do all of that. So I've been in this industry for a really long time. Often I will know somebody right away that either has expertise in that industry or that niche, and if I don't, then I will help with the entire hiring process. So I have a ton of job descriptions already that I can hand over to clients. I know where we should be posting. I know like I'm part of just different groups that you wouldn't maybe think of if you're not in this space, that are full of like highly qualified candidates and agencies and contractors. So it's generally really quick for me to get a great like big pool of highly valuable and like vetted candidates, and I'll help them screen them and help them go through the entire interview process and really kind of show them like what they should be looking for and who they who's going to be best for that role. Oh, that's a really good question. I think there's been so many exciting, like fun things we've worked on, but I think the cool thing is I'm always doing something different for clients. And it's funny, you saying like, I think I understand what you do. Like my husband doesn't even really understand all the time, because I'm always doing something different depending on, the client that I'm working with and the size of them. And so it's really, what I love about it is it keeps me on my toes, and, it's really like multifaceted work. And truly, like when I'm working with clients, my goal is to make an impact, and I'm looking to do things that will move the needle. So when that happens, and it does, that's really exciting to see is like, okay, we got it. We nailed it. This was done successfully. So that always feels so good. Oh, absolutely. When I listen to Dan's book, I'm like, yes, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So totally. So there's so many people are either, when I meet clients, they're either doing all of the marketing themselves, like Jenna Kutcher. She was doing all of the strategy for her entire business, for all of her launches, for all of her ongoing, like everything. Or I have clients who, like, they might have a couple people doing marketing, but like they're managing them. They're still being the manager for that marketing collection of people, whether it's like an agency or team members or whatnot. So bringing me in allows them to buy back their time and to like, I think the coolest thing about what I do is that I help people make sure that like what's on their plate and how they spend their time on a day-to-day basis is like purely just with what they love to do. Like my goal with Jenna was to set her up so that like all of the things that we're like managing and creating strategy and stuff that, like, you know, maybe she wanted to like clear off of her plate, she didn't need to do that anymore. Like she can just be the content creator and the visionary for her brand and really be in that space where she's like fueled and lit up and like feeling really inspired. And that's what I love doing. And I love when I can get my clients to that point. I'll answer that one first because that's a little bit more straightforward. So, I work with clients in a few different ways. Like for some clients, I'll work with them just for a one-off. Like I might do a power hour strategy session, or I might just do strategy for them, and then they can take that and go execute on it. My strategies are really actionable. They're not like fluff. They're very tactical and actionable. So that's kind of the one-off. You'd be working with me anywhere from like an hour to like a couple of months. And then the ongoing, if you're on more of like a monthly package or a retainer, there's various different package sizes based on kind of what the company's needs are, what their budget is, how big the team is, how much they have going on. So I have clients sometimes that will start out at a larger package with me, and then they'll scale back as I like to say, like, as they have like a kind of a well-oiled marketing machine, and as things are like going smoothly and we have things working, we can kind of go into like maintenance mode where I'm still there to oversee and to keep things on track. And we might do like some quarterly planning or some annual planning, or really like that 10,000 foot view looking at the KPIs or their business health. But they don't really need me day to day, like in the depth and in the weeds, because things are running really smoothly. So it can kind of ebb and flow with the business needs.
And then they replace you.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll replace me. It's kind of it's always different. So clients, sometimes they'll grow to a point where they need a full-time CMO, and if that's the case, I can help them fill that role. Yeah. Sometimes they will grow and they may not like actually place a CMO, but they'll end up sort of bolstering their team through mentorship. So they might have somebody like a VP of marketing leading, and through working with me, suddenly they're able to like take the reins on a lot of the things, and they're almost like, it's almost like your kids, like, okay, they're flying and off without me and they're doing a great job. And like I love seeing that when they're at a place where they almost don't need me. And when I find that I'm like quiet in meetings and things are really running smoothly, that's my indicator of like, okay, I'm doing my job. Like I've almost worked myself out of a job, and truly, like, that's my goal with clients.
I just
love
think of
working
like
with you.
all of the and I know like the listeners too, they're like, oh my gosh, like they need this. Everybody needs this. It's almost like, that manual we always wanted to have when you have your first child. It's like, where's the book to tell me what to do? Like you bring that baby home from the hospital and you just sit her or him down on a table in their little like car seat thing. And you're like, now what do we do?
Now what?
Yeah. Now what? It's like with business, you get started because there's just so many things and so many loose ends and so many directions you can go. Like I still have the same piece of paper somewhere on my desk that in the middle of the night when I woke up in a panic, because I was like, I need to grow my business. I need to grow my email list. I need to grow my social following. I need to do all these things. And I wrote down 6 action items in terms of like, I had to choose one. It's like, here are the 6 things I could do to move the needle in my business, but what is the one most compelling thing? The reality is, like, if I had a bigger team, I could do them all, but I don't. And so it's hard as a small business owner to like understand that this is even an option to have someone like you come in and help them.
Yeah.
But like decide what it is that they need to do next.
It's really hard when you don't know, and it can be really overwhelming. And like, for example, I just talked to a lead the other day who, they're a startup. They've been around for a while. They've had a little bit of traction, and they were like, okay, we know we need a rebrand and we want to do paid ads. And I'm like, no, like your logo is fine. Don't go spend money there because it's actually like, sure, it could be better, but like that's not the best use of your time and your money right now. And also, if you're going to do paid ads, which by the way, you're suddenly going to be talking to a cold audience, which you haven't done before, I would do these 5 things before you spend any money on paid. And these will be quick. We can do these in 2 months, and then you're ready to go. And your ROI on your paid is going to be tenfold because you've done the prep work over here. So I think like that type of decision making around where to start can be so overwhelming for people, especially if they don't have a marketing background. And I love that. I love coming in and just helping people like really simplify and figure out like, where do we start? What's going to make the best impact now?
So I'm reading a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. And the first thing he talks about he says the first $1 million in your business, and he pretty much blankets it for any industry, is one thing that most people just don't even consider as marketing, which is the most important thing, is sales, is selling. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not the fancy website or the business cards or the like growing social media accounts, although it helps. It's what channel can we leverage to sell? And for me, it was like, you know what? Instagram DMs work. I was given this incredible manual about how to sell by chat. And then my husband taught me some stuff and I started using it. And, you know, as women, we don't really like sales. We're not salesy people. I don't particularly like being sold to, but I understand the necessity of it.
Mm-hmm.
But with conviction, knowing that I love what I do and what I do actually helps serve women. Now I'm in DMs and I was like, let's jump on a call. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And I'm actually getting people buying from me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so all I could think about is if you were sitting next to me as my fractional CMO and you're like, that's the channel that works, Renee. Why are you doing YouTube shorts? Why are you doing TikTok? Why do you have a podcast? Right? Like you're doing all these things. Why aren't we just honing in on this one channel?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what you do. You just like
Yeah.
corral them in.
Exactly. A lot of times people are spreading themselves too thin.
Yeah.
And then what that means is you're not doing anything well. You're kind of doing everything
Exactly.
mediocre. And of course you're not getting results because it's just all spread thin. You're blending in. So I think the key, especially when you're smaller, is figuring out where to focus and just doing that really, really well. Some brands or businesses will take off really quickly, and then you can, as we talked about before, buy back your time and figure out like how are you going to grow your business through support. But there's, I don't think there's like really a timeline that works for every single business.
But people, here's the thing is I know there's people that give up too soon. So I'm coaching this incredible woman who did her first like bolts or soup to nuts launch where she just did, this is the first time she did everything according to like Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy, and had me guide her. And she didn't get the results that she wanted, but she still got like decent results. And she's texting me like, I'm doing this wrong, or maybe I should just give up or completely relaunch this thing. It's like, no. It's worked because you got X amount of people in this program already. So these are people that are eager to learn from you, eager to be served from you. Don't give up. So keep going. Do it again, but do it better.
100%.
And then again, and then do it even better that next time.
I think it's so easy for people to like spin their wheels and be consuming courses and watching people's free content on Instagram and downloading all the freebies. And they just almost like paralyze themselves with all of this free knowledge. And honestly, I think the best way to learn is like just getting out there and doing and like one step at a time.
Amen.
And just, learning, paying attention to what's working and what's not. And you're only going to get better by doing and putting yourself out there.
Yes. I've dubbed 2023 as my year of implementation integration. Can't even speak today. Because I spent the last year, especially just like kind of not coasting, but just figuring out what it is that I'm really good at and what I should be doing. And I signed up for way too many things. And
Yeah.
some things were very expensive mistakes. Like I signed up for, this is a big red flag, $11,000 program. And they say in their sales call, no refunds for no reason, for any
Oh,
reason. They're like, we believe in our product so much that, you know what? We just not even going to give out any refunds. And I'm like, what the
yeah,
heck?
that's a red flag.
But, and not only that, it's like, I didn't even need that. For me, and I know this because I went through this, is sometimes we take all these courses, do all these programs, hire all these experts because we're actually just delaying the work that we know scares us the most. And it's the
100%.
actual doing of the work.
100%. Yeah. And I think too, like often we're looking for clarity and we're looking for answers. And I don't know about you, but I used to be the type of person who wanted a plan. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And that's where I'm going to end up. And I think like owning your own business, being an entrepreneur, like that's just not how it works. And like I had to get really comfortable really quickly with like not knowing the next step and just literally like faith, like putting one foot in front of the other and trusting that I would be able to follow my intuition and do the next best thing for me.
And sometimes ignoring the advice that even comes from the experts.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my new VIP days, of which are amazing, and I've done like 5 or 6 of them to date, and everyone's like, "Holy crap! Like this is the best thing." Um, I celebrate that with some experts in my community, and they're like, "Well, here's where you might run into a hiccup, Renee. Is like you're going to only monetize that one VIP day, and then the lifetime value of that customer is X amount, and you're leaving money on the table." It's like I'm not there yet. Like I get what you're saying. Now let's create this membership. Let's like to me that's just busy work right now.
Yeah.
And so if something's just starting to work and you see the potential of what it could become, just keep focusing on that one thing.
Yeah.
And when you have those moments of like, oh, this is like I've got this systematized, things are running smoothly, I have more time in my calendar, let that be the case. Don't
Yeah.
fill it with other things because then it just becomes a distraction. I
Yeah.
think of people like Amy Porterfield, like Marie Forleo, is that they've been doing the same thing for years. They're
Mm-hmm.
not distracted. They just make the process and the product better every single time they do it.
Yeah.
And that's a
100%.
message for y'all.
Well, and what's interesting too, like they all do the exact same thing and they all talk to each other. They're all friends.
Yeah.
They all follow the exact same thing. So we no none of us is reinventing the wheel.
No.
We're all just duplicating what's already out there and it's just about like keeping it really simple and I think the key is just knowing what the thing is that you need to do. Like is
Exactly.
it over here on Instagram? Is it email? Is it what is it? Do you have a strong offer? Like there's some really, basic things that companies can focus on and prioritize and then see big results just by keeping it really simple.
Well, and here's a reality too. When it comes to creating products, inventions, technologies, services, is anybody could do that now. If anybody
Mm-hmm.
has a quick buck in their back pocket, they can go on and they can print a planner like I've done. They can design a planner, they can create courses and programs. So with that ease, flexibility, and quick to market availability for anybody now, what's coming of the marketplace is that people are now buying from those they know, like, and trust.
A
So
hundred
like
percent.
it's like Zevia versus La Croix. La Croix used to be like the flavored water, right? And they were great and they're still good. People still love them. But then Zevia came out and they're like, hey, I want to do this too, but I actually want to recreate the flavors of the real soda drinks. And
Yeah,
people were probably like, well, no, you can't do that. It's already been done a million times. They're like, no, just do it better than anybody else.
totally.
Right. And they do. And I'm holding up my ginger root beer,
I
Zevia.
love that one.
We
I
just,
think
we have
you
so
and
many of
you and
these.
Dan got me onto that.
Because we
I
once
love
had
it.
like 2,100 cans in our basement.
I think that's just being authentically you and not being afraid to show up as yourself.
Yes. And you do every single day.
Thank you.
So if people want to go online to find you, where can they go?
They can go to jessicashira.com, so JESSICA SHIRRA.com, or marketing.by.jess on Instagram.
And all that is in the show notes. Jess, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.